Professional engineers in California government represent 13,000 state-employed engineers and related professionals responsible for designing and inspecting California's highways and bridges, ensuring that schools and hospitals are earthquake safe, and protecting our air and water from polluters.
Sacramento State College of Continuing Education is a proud sponsor of ViewFinder Rebuilding the Boat.
A notorious stretch of cracked and waterlogged highway, nicknamed the Boat, running right through the heart of downtown Sacramento.
It's the most congested spot in the Sacramento region. It has 190,000 vehicles a day, and there's no place to put them.
To fix this fractured freeway, Caltrans hires a legendary contractor who gets things done.
No, I don't ask them, I tell them.
It's an ambitious construction project and a potential nightmare for commuters.
It can get a little hairy in the morning and a little stressful.
Go behind the scenes to discover how Sacramento is rebuilding the Boat. May 30th, 2008. The city of Sacramento waits. The evening commute is over. A few last cars drive through the twilight, making their way north on Interstate 5. They'll be the last cars allowed through for days. As night falls, a construction crew makes the first saw cut in this freeway's deteriorating concrete, and a massive construction job has begun.
Years of work have culminated into the beginning of this closure at 8 p.m., and it's just a great amount of excitement for all of us.
By the next day, people gather to watch the heavy machinery and the unusual scene of a major California freeway almost completely shut down.
It's really a once-in-a-lifetime effort. I mean, you're not going to go ahead and see this anytime in the near future, at least 30 to 40 years.
It's amazing. There's so many guys working. It's like, where's Waldo with all these people?
The freeway shutdown is a drastic step for Caltrans.
We're deviating from our normal policy. Our typical approach to building is we never close the road. We always want to maintain traffic flow.
The reason for the shutdown lies underneath the surface of this highway. It may look like a road, but this 3/4-mile long section actually functions like a boat that floats on water. But that same water is damaging the structure.
After 38 years of that deterioration, we have a roadbed that is in severe need of replacement.
How did it come to this? How did a highway turn into a cracked and leaking boat? The story goes back decades. In the post-war boom of the 50s, automobile use exploded in popularity. The traffic overwhelmed California's existing roads, and something had to be done.
There really wasn't a freeway that ran north-south through the state. It was arduous travel and took a long time.
Before I-5 was built, people used the surface streets, and on Sunday afternoons or on holidays and vacation time, the traffic was so slow that it was almost at a standstill.
To handle the traffic, the state began building massive interstate highways. In Sacramento, the most obvious spot for a north-south route seemed to be the sparsely populated land across the river from downtown.
Now, there was no city of West Sacramento there yet. It was mostly farmland and open land.
But instead of putting I-5 in the open space of Yolo County, the city and local businesses struck a deal.
Downtown officials said that could be an economic boon to our town, to have a freeway here. We'd like it here. They also, at that point, were talking with Macy's, and Macy's president said, we're really interested in downtown Sacramento, but only if there is a freeway and a garage next door. Business interests understood that it would bring more people in easier so that you have a more vibrant downtown, but it went through a section of town that was essentially a skid row. It was called the West End, you could call it the dead end. A rundown area which would have been pawn shops, flop houses, bars, low-rent businesses.
City planners decided to place the freeway over the old West End and wipe it out. But then they ran into an even tougher roadblock.
The governor himself became very much involved with this particular section of freeway. He had a high regard for that Capitol building down there at the end of the Capitol Mall, and he did come to work through West Sacramento across the Tower Bridge, and he enjoyed looking at that building in the morning. and he just casually let somebody know that he didn't want an elevated freeway through this section because that would block his view of the building.
The only solution was to sink it underground. There was just one little problem. That ground was filled with water from the nearby Sacramento River.
From an engineering standpoint, it's really not the logical place to go underground with a freeway. It's the last place in the world you'd really want to.
During winter rains, groundwater from the river rises up under the highway. To hold the structure down, freeway designers relied on gravity. Underneath the top pavement slab, a 3,200-foot-long base of concrete up to 15 feet thick, called the seal slab, uses its incredible weight to hold the structure down against the rising water. As insurance, engineers added more than 5,000 concrete and steel piles, pushing 80 feet down into the soggy ground.
It's not a typical structure in that it's almost a 4,000-foot-long boat that wants to float, but it's being held down by thousands of pilings, tension pilings that keep it from floating.
The plans included an embedded drainage and pumping system.
I-5, the freeway, is right there, right on the other side of this wall. And where we are is at the upper level of a 3-level underground structure that serves as the pumping plant facility for the riverfront seal slab. Down here is the second level, where you can clearly see 2 of our pumps.
All surface water collected in the reservoir is pumped back out to the river. Caltrans completed this unique stretch of freeway in 1970. In the years since, it's waged a constant battle against the water, relentlessly rising from below. Then, in 1980, the worst flood in the highway's history. A broken valve at the city water treatment plant filled the boat section with 12 feet of water and wrecked its drains.
During the flooding, a lot of silt got in there and filled in the pipes. And during one test, they saw that the silt was packed into these pipes so tight that it looked like concrete.
While water attacked the boat section from below, a dramatic rise in traffic volume destroyed it from above. Nearly 200,000 vehicles a day drive this road, including thousands of heavy trucks hauling cargo up and down the state. The result was painful to look at, and just as painful to drive.
The surface of the roadway was so deteriorated that our maintenance forces could no longer keep it together, patching it.
Located right near the Capitol building, it's not good advertising for the state of California to have a run-down section of highway just as you come into town.
After nearly 40 years, Caltrans had no choice. It was time for a fix. The planning process began in 2000. At first, Caltrans officials planned a traditional fix, partial lane closures, working at night, and a multi-year timeline. But something changed, thanks to a contractor with a reputation as large as the roads he repairs.
It's fun to do things fast, and whenever somebody sets a time period right, well, the objective is to beat it, right?
When they hired C.C. Myers, they kind of knew what they were getting here. He had the can-do attitude, almost as if he invites problems because he wants to fix them immediately.
Myers earned his reputation with high-quality emergency bridge fixes after earthquakes in 1989 and 1994, and a 2007 fire on Oakland's MacArthur Freeway.
He's a gruff, tough guy, but underneath the surface he's got a heart of gold, and he is really committed to doing a good job. He cares about what he's doing.
Myers is known for taking risks and getting things done. He challenged Caltrans to try something different.
They were going to do it the old-fashioned way, and that was close a few lanes at a time, work maybe nights and weekends, try to do as little disruption as possible to the weekday traffic flow. That's basically Caltrans old school. what they ended up doing was something pretty daring and radical for them.
There was a requirement that the successful contractor bid 305 days or less working days for it to be a successful contract. The contractor, C.C. Myers, actually bid 114 working days, which is a very accelerated schedule. And then after the approval of the contract, they proposed an even more accelerated schedule and complete the work in 34 working days.
Myers' plan was a shockingly different way to fix a highway. Not 305 days, not 114 days, but just 34 days total. Caltrans agreed to the plan, but to do it safely in that incredibly short time frame, they'd have to reroute traffic and shut I-5 down.
We know it's going to inconvenience the traveling public. We know that there's going to be some pain involved in it, but we're hoping that it's going to be pretty short duration.
But just how much inconvenience the fix would cause was anyone's guess.
This is like shutting the front door to our business, and we're worried.
Saturday, May 31st, the first day of construction. One man is conspicuously absent.
I had tonsillitis and strep throat all at the same time. So I was out there, but I wasn't talking. I really couldn't hardly talk. In fact, I couldn't swallow. I lost 10 pounds.
For anyone else, it would be an ominous way to start the fix. But C.C. Myers' expert team doesn't miss a beat.
I'm absolutely confident with the personnel involved in this project that we will make all scheduled deadlines.
The boat section fix includes first a rebuilding phase, then a resurfacing phase. During the rebuilding phase, Myers and his team will remove the existing roadway and drainage system and replace them with brand new drains and reinforced concrete. First in the northbound lanes, then the southbound. During the resurfacing phase, crews will lay down a polyester concrete topcoat that will protect the highway for years to come. On the northbound lanes, work crews cut through the old roadway. They expect to find shallow concrete panels that will lift easily off the ground.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to came out. So we just, we saw cut, right, and just pick up panel by panel, right? Once we got out there and tried, right, well, that ain't working, right?
They thought they were dealing with a slab of concrete that was maybe 6 to 9 to 11 inches deep, and that it was just sitting on the underslab. Instead, it turned out to have been bonded to the underslab, which made it much harder to pry out. And then as they were prying it out, they were discovering it wasn't 6 or 9 inches. At places it was 24, 36, and they told me at one spot it got to be 48 inches thick. Far more concrete than they expected.
No one knows exactly why, but it's clear the original plans for the boat section don't reflect what was actually built.
Well, the first thing I do when I see something like that, I went to the project manager, Johnny, and I said, Johnny, I know Dave Holloway, and they got a big hammer, and that baby is good, and he's fast. So Johnny agreed, and I come make the phone call, and got the guy on the road. I don't ask him, I tell him.
Now the right equipment is in place. For this first phase of the fix, Myers and his crew have 6 basic steps to complete on each lane. First, heavy-duty saws slice the deep concrete. Then, giant hoe rams with powerful hammers crush the concrete, and excavators lift it out. Workers nail down acres of high-tech fabric to drain water off the seal slab. Crews install hundreds of new plastic drain pipes. Cranes lift rebar cages into place to reinforce the structure. And finally, crews pour truckload after truckload of new concrete. There's one more high-tech addition, 23 new computer-controlled monitoring wells to remotely alert engineers if the groundwater gets too high.
All this information is going to be transmitted to a data logger, be placed onto a central computer, and available on the internet. So now I'll have this information real-time from brought right to my desk.
With 4 lanes on each side, stretching 3/4 of a mile, Myers and his team have a lot of ground to cover, and they're feeling the pressure.
They're working hard to meet the deadline, and they're still pushing hard.
I had to go out there and get a shovel myself. That's what I have to do.
The construction teams aren't the only ones under pressure. Caltrans Traffic Division has had its hands full preparing for the shutdown.
We have 10,000 people going through this an hour during the peak time period. It's the most congested spot in the Sacramento region. It has 190,000 vehicles a day, and there's no place to put them. There's a real alternate route for this traffic going through the boat.
For weeks leading up to the fix, Caltrans reached out to the public with the help of freeway signs and local news stations. Now, they can only hope their efforts will pay off. June 2nd. Anticipation is high for the first commute day of the rebuilding phase. Nobody knows how local traffic will respond with a major commuter route completely shut down.
Hey, we've been talking about this for weeks now, and today commuters during the work week are dealing with the closure of Interstate 5, the big fix project.
A lot of people concerned about getting to the airport here.
It's going to be interesting. Today is the first big day. Got a lot of twists and turns.
We've got reporters all throughout the area.
We have reporters throughout the area. Got all the live coverage for you this morning, so stick around.
As the commute begins, drivers get their first taste of life without I-5.
I watched the news this morning just to see what the situation was going to be, and this morning it took me no longer than it normally does.
So they talked about traffic backing up all the way to Fruit Ridge, so we are skipping that by going this route. But we'll see if maybe other people heard the same thing we did, and we'll find everybody here too.
Some commuters take whatever alternate routes they can find. Others use alternate transportation, like buses, trains, even boats.
I just take my wife to work in a boat, and then I go home and I come back and pick her up in the afternoon.
All week long, Caltrans monitors local roads, but only minor problems arise. The outreach campaign works. Back down on the boat section, Myers and his team are hard at work.
Well, it's crunch time. This is it. This is what all it counts. Everyone's working really hard to meet this deadline and also get the quality that everyone expects.
June 24th. After 20 days of back-breaking work, the northbound and southbound lanes have been rebuilt. Myers and Caltrans beat their first deadline, and the boat section is halfway done.
The guys did remarkably well to make the schedule. They really did.
Caltrans and Myers paused their work for 2 weeks to give their crews and Sacramento traffic a break before the next phase begins. It's been a tough construction project in a long, hot summer, and they have no idea how much tougher and hotter it's about to get. While workers prepare for what's next, contractors dispose of all the old concrete and steel ripped out during the first phase, making sure nothing goes to waste. More than 2,200 truckloads of concrete are taken off-site to be crushed, then recycled as the base of another construction project. They also recycle every single piece of metal, like drains and rebar.
Steel is the most recycled commodity, globally. We recycle around 70+% of all the steel that's produced.
And the boat section's new concrete? It's the most eco-friendly mix Caltrans has ever used. Normal concrete is made from 4 ingredients: gravel, sand, water, and Portland cement. Caltrans commissioned concrete maker Cemex to develop an eco-mix. Instead of producing 100% new cement from scratch, Cemex used a recycled material called slag.
Slag is a waste byproduct of the steel manufacturing process. To make it a green concrete, we are replacing 50% of our cement with this material.
To keep up with the rapid pace of work, Cemex designed this mix to cure fast. Today, they're conducting a test to see just how fast.
As you can see, it's still quite soft. We will come back in about an hour and see how hard it's set up.
After just 1 hour, this fast-curing green concrete is strong enough to hold a car. In 24 hours, it'll be completely set. That's under normal conditions, but normal conditions aren't in the cards. Mother Nature has something else in mind. July 8th, 2008. The I-5 Big Fix is halfway done. After a 2-week break with the highway open, Myers is ready to shut down the southbound lanes and begin the resurfacing phase. There are only 3 main steps for this phase. First, blast the surface clean with thousands of tiny metal beads.
You gotta blast it, you gotta blow it, you gotta make it, you can eat off it. That'd be that clean, right?
What we see here is a pile of the beads from the bead blaster. That machine actually sandblasts the concrete surface.
Next, a layer of methacrylate, a chemical primer.
This methacrylate has a lot of toxicity and so a lot of vapors, and we're placing this down here as a primer prior to placing the polyester concrete overlay.
The final step, a 3/4 inch coating of a polyester concrete mix as the highway's driving surface.
We have a mobile mixing unit up front which mixes the gravel and the sand with the resin and the catalyst. That drops it onto the pavement, and then the slip-form paver right behind that forms up that 12-foot wide lane of the polyester concrete, 3/4 of an inch thick.
Everyone hopes the resurfacing stage will be smooth, but then Sacramento cranks up the heat.
Temperatures jumped up to 110 degrees and were over 100 degrees for days on end.
Heat directly affects this stage of work. If the concrete temperature rises above 100 degrees, workers can't lay the polyconcrete mix. It won't properly bond to the layer below.
Well, that 1 week was bad. When the temperature's outside the 105, 106, right, the temperature of that concrete is up close to, you can get approaching 130.
For Caltrans and for C.C. Myers, the heat wave is an enormous setback, slowing the work down to less than half the intended speed.
So we didn't even get 12 hours in, right? When we figured 2 10-hour shifts. So that's the problem we had. We just couldn't get the production we wanted at all. That's something we can't figure out how we can beat the heat. I haven't been able to figure that out yet.
After a long, hot week, the heat wave finally breaks, leaving the exhausted, overheated crews days behind. They rush to finish the fix before the final deadline. Commuters and local shops are also ready for this project to end. Especially hit hard, Old Sacramento, sitting right next to the closed-down freeway.
There are very few people out there. They're just not coming down. Many of the merchants that I talked to today said that this particular week has been the slowest one they've seen in a very long time.
Monday, July 28th, the final day. It's 4:30 in the morning, and the deadline is at 5 a.m. The clock ticks the last 30 minutes while crews finish a few details. Finally, at 4:59, the cones are removed and the first car drives the boat section northward. Myers has beaten the deadline by 1 minute.
In just over 40 days of around-the-clock construction, and the contractor reminds me that it was only 35 days of actual construction, our forces have rebuilt over 7 lane miles of interstate highway here in Sacramento. We fulfilled our promise to get in, get the work out of the way, and get out.
I got to thank everybody for their participation to make this possible. Thank you.
C.C. Myers and Caltrans overcame heat and unexpectedly deep concrete to rebuild the troubled boat section of Interstate 5. Together, they turned it from a cracked and leaking highway to a smooth and sturdy structure.
Whenever you work together as a team and you're all focused the same direction, you can see what gets accomplished, right?
For Caltrans, the shutdown, a radical new way to rebuild a highway, is a risk that paid off.
Will we use this method again? You bet. We'll try it where it makes sense to use it because we've had great success here.
For the C.C. Myers Company, the I-5 boat section is yet another project to be proud of, and it's a tribute to the city of Sacramento.
Well, we've done it as fast as we could do it for the people, and I hope they enjoy it.
To order a DVD copy of this program, call 888-814-3923 or visit kvie.org/viewfinder.
Professional engineers in California government represent 13,000 state-employed engineers and related professionals responsible for designing and inspecting California's highways and bridges, ensuring that schools and hospitals are earthquake safe, and protecting our air and water from polluters.
Sacramento State College of Continuing Education is a proud sponsor of ViewFinder, Rebuilding the Boat.